Hi everyone, it's James Poulter here. I'm going to be taking you through today the 5 steps that you need to think about in order to be able to integrate AI into your large business. Now, here at Vixen, most of the types of companies that we work with are large scale organizations. They often have different countries, lots of different layers to their business organization, different departments and different units, and also languages to contend with as well. And that makes integrating the next generation of artificial intelligence more complex for the larger scale business than it maybe is for smaller companies, or certainly for those that are startups and just getting going. And we need a few different core steps to go through in order to be able to make this transition to the AI future more seamless for your business. Now, we can't go into every aspect of this, every detail for every department, but I want to give you 5 steps to begin to think about to help you on this journey. So in this video, we are going to look at the 5 steps to successfully integrate AI into your large organization. Now, first thing to say is that this is executive level business. It means getting those really high up stakeholders in your organization involved. If you don't have that kind of buy-in from the people at the top, you're going to find this difficult. So the first thing to do before you get started with these 5 steps, we can call this step 0, is to identify who are the stakeholders, who are the people that need to really be involved. But once you know who they are, maybe that's your IT organization, legal, HR, certainly it's going to be team from your consumer experience or customer services teams, and certainly marketing and brand are going to have their own voices in this. Once you know who that group is, you can begin to align around these big 5 steps. So let's dig into them. What are they? What are the 5 steps? The knowledge fountain is the first. How do we build a great brain for your AI? How do we put that at the center of your organization? Secondarily, the voice box. How do we make your AI begin to sound like you, begin to sound like your brand? Then we've got to choose the stage. Where are we going to put the brand? Where are we going to put that voice? Where are we going to put that AI for interaction with your customers or with members of your internal teams? Fourthly is the magic touch. The thing that makes this feel less artificial and a lot more intelligent is all around user experience. And how do we make that language that we're using sound just like you? And finally, step 5 is the fine tuning process. How do we analyze, improve, and repeat on this process so that it can really begin to deliver value? So these are the 5 steps, and we're going to dig into them now. And let's start with step 1, and that is the knowledge fountain. I want you to think about the idea of a new AI coming into your business, quite like recruiting someone new into your company. They are going to be really eager to get going and offering to help you. You see this a lot from the tools that we're using today, like ChatGPT or Perplexity, or maybe some of these other tools that you might be playing around with. They're very eager to help, but they don't necessarily know an awful lot about you and your business. And so the first task is to get this person, this new character that's joined your organization, this AI, really understanding what is going on inside your business. And so there are 3 big actions that you can take here. The first step is, how do we inject your brand's unique perspective into the AI, and what type of information do you need to feed it? Maybe that's customer records, but obviously with safety measures implemented. Maybe that's details about your brand and your products. Maybe it's your brand guidelines, for example. Maybe it's the product detail pages of all the things that you're selling. Or maybe it's customer services scripts, the types of content that we'll be relying upon to help these AIs in the future stand in for those repetitive tasks that often bog down CS teams. The second is to understand what type of information on those products and services you want to actually inform the behavior. Just because the data is there doesn't mean all of it should be used. And so we need to refine that data set and make it really actionable. And thirdly is we need to clear out the business objectives for why we're using this AI. Essentially, what are the rules that we want this AI to live by, and what do we want it to achieve? What are the tasks we're going to give it? And so establishing those clear objectives for that AI up front. Now, that might be tying it to cost-saving measures, might be improving efficiency. We often talk here at Vixen Labs about selling, serving, and saving when it comes to AI. Are you going to help sell more products? Are you going to help serve more customers? Or are you trying to use this to improve efficiencies and save money in the business through business transformation? So step 1, let's build a great brain. But what do we do once we've got a great brain? These AIs, they operate via natural language. And we know, don't we, that natural language is the game changer when it comes to artificial intelligence. No more having to click 1 for this and 2 for that, drop down menus and widgets and dials. We can start talking to our software with natural language. And if you want that to sound and feel like your business and your brand, we can't just let the AI wild and do it itself. We have to help bring it into its own persona. And so this is step two. It is building these great AI personas to sound like you. Now, this isn't about just making it sound like some robot or some like fictional character. This is about really making sure your brand's voice is what is customizing the way in which this AI is going to interact, particularly if you're going to be putting it in front of consumers. Do you want it to be chatty? Do you want it to be serious? Do you want it to be somewhere in between? How can we make sure that the tone is right? The first thing is to build a great persona to inject into these AI models to allow them to take on the characteristics that you want your brand to have. Step two is to make sure that the AI is linguistically up to date. So it has all of the right language for your audiences, and you might have multiple audiences. So, how can it speak to those different customers and consumers that it might be speaking to? Or if you're deploying it internally within the business, does it understand the lingo of your business? So many of us live with all sorts of acronyms and weird terms inside of our companies that are unique to the language of our business. So, if you're deploying this as a chatbot or as a voice assistant inside of your company, does it know that language? And thirdly, is we have to keep this refreshed all the time. You want to think about this like being a co-worker. You wouldn't just leave them to be trained once and then never talk to them again. Think of these AIs as helpers inside of your organization, and that means constantly reevaluating them and refreshing them over time. The third step is, where are we going to put it? So let's look at that. Step three, the stage that you're going to put your AI to perform on. Now, for a long time, we've been doing this backwards. We've been launching channels and then working out the logic behind them. Now, I think is the opportunity for a large business to really do that reset button, that kind of turn it on and off again switch. And so if you're going to go and hit Control Alt Delete on your platforms and start putting AI inside of them, you can start making the decisions now on where you want this stage to be. Where do we want to help people? Maybe it's about helping customers where they are. Maybe that's in WhatsApp or on Alexa. Maybe it's helping the brand image come across in those platforms in a different kind of way than you've been able to do before. Maybe it's in your IVR system, and it means replacing the system that you might have as the back end of your existing telephone system. There's a lot of choices there, and that's going to be unique for every part of the business. But whether it's internal or external, we do have to take some logical choices about where we're going to put this brain. Now, once you've chosen where you're going to put it, this is where we come to our fourth step, and this is that magic touch. When we begin to launch these new systems into different places, it's not just as simple as just turning it on and letting it go. Customizing the UX, the user experience of these tools is crucial, particularly when it comes to conversational artificial intelligence or conversational AI. And there are two big things that we need to pay attention to there. One is the natural language processing, and the second is the natural language understanding. So, one is we need to make sure that we're able to process the data that's coming in from either text or speech or wherever someone is interacting with our content through these either chatbots or voice bots, making sure that we understand the language, for example. Have we understood colloquialisms or slang? So can we get into understanding that? Secondly, is we need to then refine that natural language understanding so that when it not only can pick up, for example, the tonality or the language or the dialect or the grammar of that person, that it can glean understanding from it and take action from it. And often intent is one of those things that we begin to learn iteratively over time. It's very hard to detect all of the potential ways someone might ask a question or think about the task that they are trying to prepare. And these AIs, whilst they're very smart, they don't always get it right the first time. So by looking at user input, we can begin to tune that NLU and begin to get better understanding around what the intent of our users are in order to be able to shape the outputs. And that's one of those things we've got to keep testing over time, because as the capabilities of the AI changes, as the business model changes, we need to do the work of making sure it can be fixed along the way. And finally, it's picking up where I just left off on that fourth point. AI isn't a one and done job, and particularly in large organizations, it's not something that we just turn on and let run. We have to keep tuning and tuning, like a good musician with their instrument. We need to keep on refining the way in which it works. So make sure that your AI is learning from the conversations that is being had with it. Make sure that we're looking at the data once, as long as it's stored securely, that we have means of analyzing it, refining it, and then deleting it so that we're not holding on to customer information longer than we should do. How do we turn those insights into actions? How do we begin to turn on new capabilities of AIs and understand how they can be more helpful? It's exactly by doing this. It's like listening to a coworker who's flagging up issues that they see in the organization. And remember that as you learn that feedback, it is about doing this kind of well orchestrated dance routine. It's about coming back in and refining those previous four steps. So I hope this is a helpful framework, 5 things for you to be able to start getting used to using AI inside of your large organization. Remember what I said, this is executive level business. This needs a big buy-in from the top dogs in your organization. Make sure you have them on hand. And remember the 5 steps. How do you build a great brain? How do you make it sound like you? It's by giving it that voice box, giving it that information that it needs to be able to sound like your brand. Picking your platforms wisely, not deploying it everywhere just for the sake of it, but using it where it's going to be useful. Giving it that magic touch of refining the NLU and the NLP so that the experience is always learning, and fine tune, improve, iterate, and repeat. This is the steps that we need to go through. I hope that's a helpful framework for you. And if you would like to dig in more about how we can help you at Vixen Labs integrate AI into your large business, whether that is a large enterprise, multinational, or in a single division, we'd be very happy to have a conversation with you. Thanks so much for taking the time, and hope to see you again very soon. Bye bye.